Good afternoon, everyone, to all of our regional journalists. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Today, we're coming to you to provide an update on the discussions we've had with the regional ministers on the proposal to suspend some of our syllabuses. So we've met with the ministers this morning, and as promised, we have come now to update you. I'm going to have Dr. Wayne Wesley, Chief Executive Officer and Registrar of the Caribbean Examinations Council, provide a brief. And we also have joining us Dr. Eduardo Ali, Co-Registrar and Deputy CEO, as well as Dr. Nicole Manning, Director of Operations. I'll now turn it over to Dr. Wesley.
Thank you very much, Polian, for that introduction. And let me say good afternoon to members of the press and welcome to CXC headquarters. With me on the platform are members of the executive management team of the Caribbean Examinations Council. We have Dr. Eduardo Ali to my left, and we have Dr. Nicole Manning, Director of Operations, to my right. Dr. Eduardo Ali is actually the Pro-Registrar and Deputy CEO of the Caribbean Examinations Council. And we do have Mrs. Sherry Deslandes, our Director of Corporate Services. So welcome to the Caribbean Examinations Council. We just completed a meeting with ministers of education from across the region to discuss the regional concerns arising from the contemplation of syllabus suspension for the following subjects: CAPE Electrical and Electronic Engineering Technology, CAPE Green Engineering, CSEC Agricultural Science, the double award, and CSEC Industrial Technology, the mechanical option. The meeting demonstrated our shared commitment to find a critical path forward on this matter, given the pressing education and human capacity development imperatives facing the region. The ministers of education were forthright in their positions, as well as pledging their support for CXC and for more direct lines of communications with the Council. I therefore want to announce our agreed positions emerging from the meeting as follows. 1. The Caribbean Examinations Council will continue to offer to the region agricultural science, double major, green engineering, industrial technology, the mechanical option, and electrical and electronic engineering technology. 2. CXC has rolled out a menu of new generation technology and science programs. Some are not yet at the desired demand. Governments will work with CXC in a partnership in building demand for these new programs to enable their cost viability. 3. Accordingly, today's deliberations with the ministers of education reinforce the need for a collective regional marketing thrust to promote the priority subject areas in STEM or STEAM education and climate-smart agriculture, which are considered critical for the economic growth and sustainable development of the region. And finally, CXC is committed to ensuring its communications protocols accord the ministers of education greater line of sight of high-level policy recommendations for decision making. In closing, let me state for the record that the Caribbean Examinations Council is deeply committed to the educational and human capital development of the region, and we will work in partnership with all our stakeholders to achieve our vision to advance the fortunes of our region. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
At this time, we will open the floor to questions from our media attending. And what I'd like you to do is to raise your hand using the Zoom feature, and then we'll be able to turn it over to each of the persons who have a question. And of course, we would appreciate if you state your name and the media house that you're with when you're posing your questions.
Yes, you may go ahead. Just turn the mic on, so right. Good. No, turn on when you see the red light, it's on. There you go.
Good afternoon, everyone. Trey Grace from the Nation. You mentioned that some of the courses weren't as well patronized as you would like. Outside of the marketing, what else will you be doing to try to encourage more people to get on board with those courses?
Well, that's a very good, important question. I think outside of the marketing, some of the concerns raised with us by stakeholders across the region would have been that of the resources available to the education system to facilitate the delivery of these programs. Some of the concerns would have been in relation to the availability of teachers, labs, and all the other equipment that would be required to facilitate the delivery of these programs efficiently. Dr. Edward Ali can expand on that given the research that would have been conducted, but primarily there are several factors that would have affected this: the availability of teachers, the availability of resources in labs, the interest of students, and hence the marketing thrust that we have agreed to ensure that we speak to the relevance of these subjects to the economic competitiveness of the region, and that the governments of the region would have articulated a plan to drive an economy that is based on climate change resilience, agricultural, food security, as well as our environmental protection, given what we are prone to in the region for disasters. And so with that commitment from government across the region, coupled with marketing of those subjects to students, should drive greater demand, of course, within our school system. I don't know, Edward, would you want to? Okay.
So thank you very much for your question. Dr. Wesley would have indicated the capacity issues that are faced by many of the schools across the ecosystem of CXC. And some of these issues, which we have delved into from the study that would have been conducted to determine whether suspension was an option, were in fact documented across all subjects that we reference. So I want to make a mention of some of them so you have an appreciation for the extent to which these are concerns. Dr. Wesley would have mentioned the issue of plant and equipment that are outdated, the lack of practical experience for students because of the inadequacy of the labs and facilities that are there, lack of qualified teaching professionals to teach the broad syllabus. In some instances, the subjects were challenged because of the lack of human capital outlay to provide support for areas such as welding and other related areas, plumbing and electrical installation, that the issues of physical resources such as textbooks and other learning resources were challenges that the system did not provide for students in the system, as well as areas related to the matriculation requirements. One of the things we have found is that in many instances, there are no opportunities for upward mobility beyond the subjects because many of the universities and community colleges do not make it a requirement for entry into their programs. So for example, if you look at mechanical engineering option, similarly agricultural science, in both instances, they are not deemed requirements for entry into the respective subjects at the community college level. And for those who are taking green engineering, as well as electrical engineering, math and physics were the options that the universities preferred, and not green engineering itself or electrical and electronic engineering technology. So those were some of the issues that were raised that are across the region, which we're alive to at CXC. And of course, we would have indicated some of those challenges that are policy implications for ministers of education and education stakeholders across the region. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ali. We have a hand raised by Abigail Headley. So Abigail, once you open your mic, please let us know what media house you're with.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm from Sabric News. Dr. Wesley, you would have mentioned that CXC has rolled out a new menu of technology and science programs. Can you list some of these programs that you would have spoken about there?
Yes, Dr. Ali, could you just provide?
Thank you very much for the question. There are actually 12 new generation subjects at the CAPE level. So they include agricultural science, entrepreneurship, performing arts, physical education and sport, tourism, animation and game design, logistics and supply chain operations, digital media, financial services, design and technology, and biotechnology. So those are the areas that were identified at the time based on a demand that was proffered by the region, for which CXC will have to ensure that the demand is met, or the supply is meeting that demand.
Do we have any more questions from our journalists?
I have another. Going back to the courses that were suspended, can you say how many students were impacted? Or yeah, an idea of how widespread it was.
For registration. So we can, historically, you can say what the registration numbers were like, and from that, a projection is made. And Eduardo will actually walk us through the details on those numbers. But yes, there would have been a decline in some cases. In some member states, there wouldn't have been any take-up for those 4 subjects at all. We looked at some data from 2020, and for some member states since 2020, and now the enrollment numbers for those were 0. All right, in some member states. So, but Eduardo can give you the historical regional numbers, because I guess that's what you want to.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wesley. Thank you for the question. So our figures go back to 2017 to now. So we're looking at data over a period of several years. So I will speak to the fact, first of all, that the CSEC has an industrial technology suite, of which there are 3 options: electrical and electronic and technology. There's the building and fabrication technology and the mechanical engineering technology. So the option B, which is the mechanical engineering technology, is the only option that we had suggested should be suspended. The other 2 are still viable. Just to give you an idea, if you look at the numbers for the electrical and electronic technology CSEC curriculum, you're looking at roughly 4,500 across the region. And for building and fabrication technology, it's about 4,200. But for mechanical engineering technology across the region, the numbers are below 2,400. And so you're looking at half the number of students enrolled across the region. However, as Dr. Wesley indicated, for that particular subject, we have 6 territories within the last 5 years have no students registered at all across the region. 3 territories had between 1 to 5 students registered annually. And a further 3 territories only had a registration uptake upwards 50 students. So that gives you an idea as to the numbers. Of course, those numbers vary. So in 3 territories, you would have had the numbers registering as 1,335 for one country, 544 for another country, and 163 for another country, with all the other countries mentioned having between 1 to 5 or 0 for that subject. As for agricultural science, what we found is that 10 to 12% of the enrollment for the double award, versus single award, are being taken for the double award. In other words, of the total number of students taking the single award, only 10% take the single award, which means that you have a very low number across the region. So just to give you an idea, also 8 territories have registered no candidates for 3 to 5 years. 4 territories have registered between 1 to 50 students annually, with the majority of them being below 10. And to indicate that just 2 territories, in fact, have registered numbers. One country has 750 over the period, and another has about 150 across the entire region. So what you find in the distribution is 2 to 3 countries are predominantly the ones registering students for the entire subject, and the majority of them have either no registrations or very low, below 10. For Cape Green Engineering 1 and 2, it's a similar trend. 7 territories have no students registered over the period, with a mean of 40 students for Unit 1 and Unit 2. And for Cape Electrical and Electronic Technology, 6 territories have no registrations for the period, with only 1 territory carrying 137 students. So what we found based on our analysis is that half of the territories do not register students at all. And this is for the period of 3 to 5 years. And this trend has continued up to the present time.
So with that being said, are there any fears that, say, in 5 years or so, there will be, are you guys concerned that there won't be enough green engineering? I'm not sure exactly what type of jobs are coming out of that particular subject, but are there any concerns in that area?
Yeah. So generally, the ministers have agreed that it's a priority option for them, given where their countries are headed. And so signaling that data, because we go based on research and data to do our analysis. And so based on the data that will come from those countries, we hope to see a demand coupled with all that was mentioned by Dr. Wesley, including the marketing. But there must be clearly defined career pathways for students, because that's part of the problem. In addition to the resource challenges that schools face in terms of human capital challenges with teachers, as well as those persons who are also available to support the teaching and learning process in providing career guidance to students.
So just in addition to what Dr. Ali just said, the whole issue of labor market information and intelligence, that will be critical to us charting a path for students to aspire and want to see a career path that allows them to self-actualize. And that's going to be critical in the collective marketing thrust that we are going to be working together with the Ministries of Education.
Thank you for those responses, Dr. Wesley and Dr. Ali. Do we have any more questions coming from our journalists? I'm not seeing any more hands raised. Okay, we have Samantha Simon. Samantha, please let us know which media house you're representing.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. Thank you. Go ahead.
Apologies. All right. So with some of these subjects that are being considered, many of them would be considered newer subjects compared to the more traditional subjects that would have been on the syllabuses within a lot of these countries. As such, when it comes to marketing of these subjects to the different islands, as well as support to the ministries in incorporating these subjects into their syllabuses and offerings, what would have been done from CXC's end when it came to those actions?
Thank you very much for that question. A very fundamental question. Once we would have established and developed those new generation subjects, we, through our learning or our Professional Learning Development Institute, conduct what we call teacher orientation workshops to at least sensitize the regions to the syllabuses that are available and what would be required for their integration in schools. This, of course, would also be communicated to our respective ministries of education across the region to sensitize them to the syllabuses being available and the teachers as well being acquainted with what would be required in those syllabuses. A lot of times when these subjects are developed and are available would require the injection of additional resources. And I think that's where we'll have to find very creative ways to ensure that resources are made available for the introduction of these programs. Certainly, our discussion this morning with the ministers, they would have been very forthright about their passion in facilitating STEM and science integration within schools. And I'm quite sure that will be reflected in the investment that many governments have already indicated they will make within the education system.
Thank you, Dr. Wesley. I'm not seeing any more hands at the moment. If we have any final questions, you can raise your hands now, but if not, I think at this time we would move to wrap up the press conference. I would like to thank you all for joining us, and thank you to our executives, to Dr. Wesley, for coming to update the regional media today. And so we thank you very much and do hope you have a pleasant day.